With a small delay, we've got a balance patch together with an update launch. In this video I will talk briefly about what these changes can do to the meta and will share my thoughts on which deck should become quite powerful. Link to the patch notes is in the video's description. Nerfs. Refreshing Spring Warrior is now a 5 mana spell. I had a thought about that moment where developers will not nerf Incurrence Flow and will target this spell instead. I had a different suggestion to nerf this card, and this is to make it so you're refreshing 1 mana from each spell drawn. Spell Mage will still be viable, which is not something I'm fine with, since most of the time you are winning because of one card that is played early on, which gives you extra 10 to 15% win rate and you can interact with this in any meaningful way. First Day of School now gives you 1 more 1 job for the cost of 1 mana. This is a huge change that will destroy the possibility for Paladin to dominate on board from turn 1. Aggro and Secret Paladins might be actually gone, or they'll have to undergo huge refinement process. In smaller Paladin archetypes, like Reliever and Broom, this can become a solid value engine. Hysteria is now 1 mana more expensive, a good nerf that won't change much. Priests and Warlocks will keep playing this card, and Priests have an ability to discount it with Palm Reading. The only noticeable change is that you can run this removal together with Kazakus, which is not something very common, but it's something. Crab Rider gains Wind Fury only on the turn you play it. Less explosive, still hard to remove if played early. Paladins might be in a position where they're lacking damage because of missing 1 or 2 Wind Fury hits with buffs on this Murloc. This can still be a decent controlling tool, which is something I'm fine with. And last in the nerf section is Mankrik. The shuffled Mankrik is now a 3-7 instead of 3-10. These stats were unreasonably high, and if pulled on turns 4-5, it can win game on its own. At the later stages of the game, usually don't have problems dealing with pre-turn version. You will still see Mankrik a lot, but it will be easy for you to deal with it if pulled very early. Buffs. I will talk less about buffs, since some of them aren't really worth talking about. Razorborg or an extra attack. Now this is a reasonable threat on a bot, and your opponent will think about whether they're fine taking 3 damage every turn or facing 3 drop with Death Rattle. Death Rattle DH was very close to be an actual tier 2 archetype, and this buff can be enough to push it to that level. Dark Inquisitor's NF is now discounting Corrupted Minions too by 2 mana. Honestly, I have no idea if dedicated Corruptories will emerge, but this is a neat tweak for Control Priest with Clown package that was already highlighted on the channel. There were some Shaman buffs. TLDR is no card draw available, Shaman is still in dumpster. Unbound Elemental buff is not achieving much. Tidal Surge is now a good card that will be playable in slower Shaman archetypes when they will be above a tier 4 level, and Lilliput the Lurker was already the strongest card in Elemental Shaman package, and this changes nothing for archetype. Hope Miniset will help Shaman become viable. Fiendish Circle costs 3. Hope this will help Exude to become playable, but I have no idea how consistent this plan will be. Deck of Case is 5 mana spell. Warlocks have no way to tutor it consistently, and you have to have decent deck in the first place, so that if you can't find it, you should be doing fine against most of the field, which is not the case for Warlock. I like 2 mana Deck of Lunacy, which was alright in already solid shell of Spell Mage. Willing Combatant is now a 3-6. This card now feels close to Ravaging Ghoul, having guaranteed whirlwind effect, combined with a decent body for its cost. Can see fringe play either in Control Warrior on its own, or in some sort of Sorrowfang package. Shield Maiden is now in contention with Scrap Golem for a 5-drop that gives armor in Control Warrior. Shield Maiden will be better against mages, since you get armor as you play it. Golem is better against aggressive decks, since it has Taunt and has some extra synergy with Terran. And last buff is Dissolve cost reduction to 9 mana. This Old God was the least playable one, and this buff feels a bit off. The most logical buff should have been giving Summon Minions Rush, so effecting board immediately and not just vomiting pile of stats. There are 2 good implications for this buff though. First is that you can play Broom to give your minions rush. It's much more clunky than my suggestion, because you have to have 2 cards in your hand instead of 1, and a board space for the Broom. Second one is a bit more interesting, with the Dark Inquisitor resurrected from Nizov, that is attacking enemy for 8 damage, with you having mana to use your hero power. Decks. It's a bit early to suggest anything, but it's clear that the biggest winners of the patch are the decks that were oppressed by Paladins, and I will suggest few decks that are good against most of the field. LTK Demon Hunter is on the rise. Outside of Rammed Druids and Control Priest with Delucia, it doesn't really have any bad matchups if played well. The gameplay hasn't changed, where you're looking for combo pieces, answering opponent's stuff and drawing through your deck. I suggest trying this list with 1 copy of Ooze to have an answer against Bulwarks of Azinov and Weapon Rogues. Speaking of, Poison Rogue is getting much better. Besides some aggro decks, it is really hard to counter it consistently, unless everyone brings Uzis, which probably won't happen, at least very soon. And that's it for this video. The biggest thing about this patch is Paladin getting much weaker, opening space for some archetypes. The main concern is that some of the most powerful and frustrating stuff is still there, and facing those things won't make you feel enjoyable, such as high rolling spell mages, Tictus warlocks, Illusias, Ilgenos and such. And this note, have a good one.